Now, their toys had broken, and the struggle had become, for each of them, viscerally vital. To the common peasant, little had changed. The war before and the war now were one and the same. Sons and daughters went to battle. Sons and daughters died. That their numbers were no longer limited to the elect was something of which no one spoke aloud. Yet in the halls of power, the sad acceptance of ritual human sacrifice in the name of the common good had been replaced by something more desperate. The order of the world itself was now uncertain, and for the powerful atop their suddenly teetering thrones, the stakes could have gotten no higher. By the 519th year of the Dragonkings, the escalation of the War of Scales ground into its 26th year, with no end imagined. The memory of dragons has ever been long, and the price of Satinka's insult on the election fields continued to be paid in human blood. It gushed from the wound of a dragon's pride that would not be healed. Open warfare between the five domains had settled into a dreary cycle of battle without conquest, sacrifice without purpose, and loss without victory. Battle lines swept back and forth across the same scarred patches of land that stank from death. War itself became the consuming preoccupation for the dragonkings who perpetuated it. The peer who struggled to end it, and the mystics who fought for their own survival because of it. So it was that as all eyes cast their fearful glances toward one another, the doom of the world crept unnoticed, even by the mystics, who alone were prepared to see it. Yet all that would change in a single, fateful year. Bronze Canticles, Tome 3, Folio 2, Leaf 23. "You!" a voice rings out from the darkness. I peer through my conjured mask, an ornate facade of white and red painted leather in which I may hide. I squint into the void, trying to shield my eyes from the glare of the lights. "Yes, you on the stage. Are you ready?" "I don't know," I answer. "What am I to do?" "Amateurs. All they send me are amateurs," the voice bellows. "Get off the stage and watch." I can already hear an enormous thick curtain rising behind me. I glance awkwardly about, then jump, gingerly, over the unsteady flames of the footlights, landing on a giant plain that stretches to the twilight horizon. The curtain vanishes into the sky, revealing a sparse setting. Painted wooden mountains hang from cords at the back of the stage, waving uncertainly in a breeze that drifts across the plain. There are several statues of metal warriors swinging at one side, while on the other side, a false sea hangs just above the stage. All three of these pieces are suspended from an ornate bronze globe overhead, the sphere itself also suspended from the darkness. Each piece drifts slowly in the wind, sometimes circling forward on the stage, while the other two circle back under the orb. Then the players enter from either side of the stage. The footlights are inexplicably working against me, shining off the edges of the eye holes in my mask. I cannot see the players clearly. My mask is supposed to hide me from them, not the other way around. One of them is a woman with paper wings mounted to her back, who dances beneath the false waves, suspended over her head. I cannot see her face, but she reminds me of my own mystic twin, the winged woman, through whom the power of my deep magic is made real. She looks awkward as she dances across the stage, her faux wings bouncing unnaturally. Nearby, a short, demonic little creature attempts a dance of his own beneath a metal statue suspended over him. As he dances, he is trying to carry something in his hands, letters and figures of some strange and unreadable script. He tries to be careful in his movements, but the letters fall from his awkward hands, shattering against the hard floor and vanishing at once. At the back of the stage, however, beneath the shadow of the wooden mountains, stand two tall figures. Twins, by the look of them, though their faces are hidden behind masks that are in every respect identical to my own. Each holds a sword in his hand. Both of them step forward. "What do you think of it thus far?" says a voice in my ear. I turn and find myself staring into the eyes behind another mask. Gasping, I step back. This creature, too, wears a mask that is identical to my own. Its body, however, is hunched over, leaning on a walking stick clutched firmly in its left hand. A long gash rends its coat from the left shoulder down to the middle of the back, exposing a long white scar. It gazes back at me with burning red eyes, vertical slits of darkness that are wholly inhuman. "Who are you?" I ask. "If you don't pay attention, you'll never get it right," the hunched figure snaps, ignoring my question. I turn back to the stage, the wind whispering around the edges of my mask. The winged woman lies dead on the stage, her head severed from her body. Her blood seeps across the stage, a growing stain moving inexorably toward me. I shudder, trying to step out of its way as it drips off the stage, but it follows me as I move. The players on the stage begin applauding, their sparse clapping echoing hollowly throughout the vast hall. I stare up at the masks of the twins, both still wrapped in their ovation, knowing that one of them had destroyed this winged woman. "Not bad for a rehearsal," the stooped figure calls out, his voice trying to carry over the sudden gust of wind. He grabs me by my arm and pushes me up onto the stage. Off balance, I clamber upward, my hands sliding on the winged woman's blood. I stand on the stage aghast. The stooped figure is suddenly beside me. It reaches down with its right arm and picks up the sword from the stage. The breeze that once drifted through the room has become a gale, howling around the stage, blowing the scenery overhead to spin and twist from its cables. "Enough rehearsal," he screams over the sudden din. "Let the play begin." The body of the winged woman picks itself up off the ground, her hand snatching her head from where it lay and deftly replacing it on her shoulders as she walks off the stage. The demon creature, too, has walked off, pulling a new set of cymbals out of a barrel just behind the proscenium of the stage. I look back toward the twins, but only one figure stands at the back of the stage. I look down at myself and see that we now wear identical costumes. "I won't do it," I yell at the stooped man over the roaring of the wind. "I won't play this part." "Everyone's part is his own," he insists. The hunched figure puts the bloodied sword in my red-stained hands. Book of Caliph, Bronze Canticles, Tome 9, Folio 1, Leaf 52. The winds were unusually cold for late afternoon, even in the early spring. Galen Arvad awoke with a shiver from his reveries and pulled his hood down closer around his face, his cheeks chilled to a bright, rosy blush. He shivered once more, but knew deep within himself that it had little to do with the cold of the approaching night. He stood in the center of the broad avenue that had been the main thoroughfare of the town known as Patai, the jewel of the East. The wind played with a broken door somewhere, for the squeal of its hinge and the occasional banging of its remaining planks sounded an uneasy tempo through the town. The wind lent its own mournful low wail to the scene as it wound its way across the jagged edges of broken walls and the vacant blackness of shattered windows. The skittering dry leaves and ashes hissed for silence, but the wind paid no attention and continued to blow through the desolation. The wind brought one consolation, Caliph thought as he sighed. It rolled down from the northern inland plain, spilling over the bounteous hills before it cascaded down into the town. It filled his nostrils with the pungent smell of burnt timbers, blistered paint, and charred stores. It was unpleasant enough, but he was gratified for it nonetheless. For the smell, he knew well from experience, could have been much worse. It certainly would have been much worse had the wind come from the west. A sharp, distant voice echoed among the fallen walls. "Prince Arvad!" Caliph looked up in annoyance at the figure running toward him, weaving through the rubble of the fallen walls. "Prince Arvad!" It was Lovich. He was new to the clan, only rescued from the election and wasted 4 months before. He was a talented mystic who showed promise in a number of areas, if he lived long enough to develop them. He had an enthusiasm and a blind loyal fervor that argued against betting in favor of his survival. Lovich breathlessly skidded to a halt just in front of Caliph. "Prince Arvad, I bring news." "Don't call me Prince," Caliph snapped. "A prince is the son of a king, and the last time I checked, my father had not acquired a crown." But, sire, everyone calls you the prince. We are a clan, not a kingdom.